We are in south of France, in Buoux, the place which changed the climbing forever. It was absolutely the place to be during the 80s. Even, for example, my parents, their dream was to go to Buoux. Everybody wanted to be here. One of the first 8As, 8Bs were established here, and like every single sport climber in the world wanted to climb here. The style is very specific. It's usually quite vertical, really technical, and that's one of the reasons why during the 90s the Buoux was almost abandoned and the places to be moved rather to the steeper crags somewhere in Spain or Italy. When I was a little kid, I was struggling with the style of climbing in the Buoux myself as well, but I have a really amazing memory of onsighting a route called Chouca when I was 12 years old. 19 years later, after my ascent of Chouca, I'm back and I wanted to check out this relatively new sector, which is completely the opposite of the old Buoux. This is very steep, very powerful, and I'm really excited to see how this new Buoux will feel like and how it will climb like. So I was checking out the guidebook and thinking what could be a good candidate to try to go for an onsight, and I found an 8C starting on the left side of the cave and traversing diagonally out to the right. It's called Brillant Saoul. I apologize for my French pronunciation if it wasn't correct, but it looks really epic. I think it's going to be very long, pumpy, and good fun. I would like to invite you for the World Cup in Prague in Boulder, which will take place in the end of September. Last year it was just an incredible atmosphere, such an incredible crowd. I hope you will come again to cheer me or the rest of the Czech team. So see you there. I made quite a long preview from the ground. Route goes pretty diagonally, so I could see quite well from the ground, and really made sure that my preparation was as good as possible, because to me it looked like a really power endurance, really merciless, powerful moves on mostly pockets without that many footholds, all the way up to like the 6th bolt, and I really wanted to make sure that I was climbing this lower part with a good flow, because around 5th or 6th bolt I was expecting really hard crux. Well, as I was climbing, the moves were definitely not easy, but they were maybe slightly easier than I expected. Basically, it was really steep, the footholds were not so good, but the pockets were always a little bit better than I expected. And I was getting to this section. All these 2-finger pockets are okay. And from here, my previewed beta was basically, it's like all points of crossover one-hand dyno into this like little slot above my head. But in the end, yes, there were more holds that from the ground looked like would be almost nothing, but they were okay. And yes, I could do this move quite controlled. It wasn't really a dyno, which I was thinking, yeah, I was kind of looking forward to doing a dyno, which was almost like disappointing a little bit. But obviously I was pretty happy that I made it past this bowl problem, and I was looking forward to the next section. So this jug was a jug, but you're in total roof, so I just decided to keep going. And also because I thought, you know, the next section is kind of like your hands and feet, or the left heel hook is kind of almost in the vertical wall, and even though like your body is hanging in the air, I thought like it would be easy section and this would be an okay rest. I was pretty wrong about it. The climbing did not really get that much easier compared to the climbing before. And yeah, I was trying to get something back, but I didn't really feel like I got that much back. The next section looked powerful, and I was definitely quite afraid about it. Again, big moves on perfect pockets. It's definitely quite a miracle that, you know, the pockets are just enough to make it climbable, but that's just like the old Buoux that have quite a lot of pockets and usually just enough pockets to make it climbable. This was a big surprise. The right hand pocket is just really bad mono, and you really had to commit to go into the next slot, which was way better than I expected, but still it wasn't an easy move, and especially quite unnerving since this was an Onsight and I didn't really have that much idea how the next hold is gonna be. And yet again here, you know, more vertical part, and I definitely didn't expect at all that this section would be hard. But again, oh, how wrong I was. And basically I was really pumped and I was fighting for my life. And again I was in the roof and I thought like, oof, probably I'm just going to fall off. Luckily, after this little cross under move, grabbed some intermediate, and the next hold was very good jug. But very good jug, but in the middle of the roof. So just as soon as I got it, I thought like, okay, this is good. I can get quite a lot of back. But I reached here with such a high level of pump that I knew it's gonna be challenging pretty soon. As I was resting there for a while, I knew that I can't really stay there forever. Also, this route has two exit variations. If you go to the right, it still has one really serious bowl problem, which is an 8C+, but the left exit is slightly easier, and I was just hoping that, you know, I've already done so much climbing and this last exit is not gonna be that hard. I was really committed. It was basically just 2-3 really long, powerful moves. And I was holding this hold, which is not really a jug, but I was really hoping that I was not gonna let it go. So pumped, you know, even though after okay rest in the jug, I felt okay, but I did 2 more moves and I got such a massive flash pump again. But luckily it was just enough and I could clip the chain. The route was quite different than I thought. I thought it would be quite bouldery around the 3rd, 4th bolt, but it's actually quite resistant, quite continuous. The Crux, which I thought would be Crux, was not really the Crux. It just kept going. And then there was this like slopey rail, which I thought would be kind of a resting section. It's not super hard, but you get continuously more and more pumped, and the places where you kind of expect a good rest, it's never really any better than like kind of a slopey hold like this. It's enough to like choke up once, but then you have to keep going. And there was one move where I thought like I was gonna go like a really heinous mono into a hold that you don't really know whether it's gonna be good or not. And if you're onsighting, you just have to go for it. I can't really like do it static, I just have to go for it. I was lucky. But then again, it turns almost into vertical, and because like the next hold is a jug, you kind of expect that the next holds will be jugs as well. And there I was like so surprised, I almost fell off. It was, for me, maybe like the crux of the whole route. It's like so slopey, and there was such a hard lock off just under the roof. Then there are some underclings in the roof, but like way worse than you think. And then there is finally something that I would call a jug, but like it's in the middle of this roof, and I got there completely dead. And like I was expecting to take quite a lot of back, but whew, I arrived there too tired. Luckily the very top is not very hard, but it was like really on the limit, yeah. the day is not over and there is a really sick looking 8B Plus that I would like to try to onsight. It's pretty often that if you have a hardcore crag where, you know, the meat of the routes are like 8As or 8Bs and harder all the way to 9th grade, the easier route around 7A, 7B, which is the typical warm-up for climbers of these grades, are pretty often quite sandbagged. I think this is a 7B plus, but it's definitely 7B plus, not to underestimate. And I kind of expected it because I did for warm-up a route just to the right, which was an 8A going to the top, but it also had like the lower part around 7B, and it felt so hard for being a 7B. So this first pitch is, for being a 7B plus, like really powerful, big moves on like not so good pockets with quite poor footholds, and it's like, yeah, you definitely want to climb this first part like well, so you don't want to waste your power. So it might sound like 7B plus first part. If you climb an 8B plus, it just doesn't really change anything. But I think in this case it actually changes quite a lot, also because I think that the route is quite sandbagged, or like the first part is quite sandbagged. So I have just clipped the first anchor, and here the business starts. So I definitely expected that the next few moves will be still okay, and after reaching this next sloper, the meat of the route will start. As I have already climbed a few routes in this sector and in Buoux in general, I knew that the moves are going to be hard. You can't really hesitate so much. In general, climbing Onsight in Buoux is not that easy because, yeah, the moves are hard, it's not so easy to see, and you can't really hesitate so much, and usually you don't really have that many options. Like, you really have to find the best possible beta and just go for it. So again, those Crux holes are mostly pockets. They were, I would say, slightly better than I expected, but they were further apart. This crossover move was really nice. But here it was getting a little more unclear for me. You know, this Crux is maybe 25 meters high up, and you can't really preview it so much. Up to here, I think I was climbing really well, but the nature of this route is like that, like a couple of really powerful moves, and you get like a massive flash pump. And here I was kind of stuck. I could see like the good hold, but all I could do was just dyno into it, even though it might not really look like I had to jump that far. For me, it felt like a massive dyno, and I thought like I was gonna go. But for some reason I just stuck it and enjoyed the juggy top out and clipping the chain. Very interesting route with just enough pockets to make it possible. It's like very strange to make such a wild athletic moves. There was like this full crossover and then really hard to like remove the finger of the mono pocket and get into the crimp. And the final move was like, I was pretty sure I was gonna fall off. There's like this dyno of another mono pocket crossing over into something that looks like a jag, but it wasn't as good. Maybe my beta was wrong and I should have just got into the last mono right hand and jumped left hand, but it was definitely very interesting. So it was very nice to revisit Buoux again, and it was a successful day. but there are still some projects left or routes left, and even the classic part of Buoux, so it's definitely not my last time here.